It's now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Reinder Nota. He's one of the pioneering healthcare entrepreneurs in our country who developed low-income capitation models in South Africa. Excuse me, Reinder, I'm just going to take back control. There we go. He holds a medical degree from Stellenbosch University and advanced training in primary healthcare development from Mayadol University in Bangkok. Dr. Nota founded CareCross Health, one of South Africa's leading GP networks and managed care companies, and previously chaired both Occupational Health South Africa and CareWorks, a top HIV/AIDS management team. Over to you, Reinder.
Thank you. Let me now take control and let's see. Okay, where are we now? There. So I'm very privileged here to speak about what I think is probably one of the most uniquely South African tragedies, the gap between management, high-income earners, and the rest of South Africa's employees in specifically access to primary care and preventative care. And I think in my next few slides, I'm going to demonstrate why this has happened and also offer a solution. As Chris mentioned, I have been in the world of low-cost healthcare since, believe it or not, the late 1990s. I think Chris and I met nearly 30 years ago. So we've got a lot of experience in this, and I think there's some positive take homes and some hope. What has happened and why is there this gap? 80% of South African workers, and this is all give or take, but I think those of you that are listening in HR positions know this is true, have no real private healthcare cover. I'm going to focus on primary care, and most of South Africa's higher income earners are on very good medical schemes and have probably the world's best access. The result is that up to 15 million employed staff are poorly or not at all insured. To top that, and this has been mentioned by Jared as well, he used a global figure, but South Africa has a 12 to 21 billion rand cost, specifically to unplanned absenteeism. People are sick, they don't know what to do, they end up in a clinic, and there anything could happen. So we're still a nation where healthcare access is a privilege and not a right, and that is intolerable, and it can change. If I look at why is it that we are where we are? Traditionally, the lower income workers were able to rely on the state. And many of us, many years ago, remember that the state was a good and relatively easy way to let our low income employees go to, because it actually was functioning. Today, these clinics are overwhelmed and often defunct. It differs from province to province, but on average, should the clinic still be working well, they are completely overwhelmed, and in many other areas where they are not working well anymore, there's just no decent care. Another big reason is that the political climate that has focused heavily on NHI, National Health Insurance, as a solution, has given many corporates a little sit back and wait attitude. Often you hear, well, if NHI comes, our problems are solved, aren't they? And I think anyone that has read anything on this topic knows that is not going to happen. A very other big reason, and this is also a hopeful reason that we'll see later, is that health tech and AI were not really around 10 years ago. In fact, I vividly remember that you couldn't even WhatsApp a few years ago. And today, the communication and access to information is incredibly advanced, and we can use that in accessing healthcare. And then another big factor was that providers are difficult customers, and I'm specifically talking about doctors, specialists, etc. And they need to be contracted and cooperated in the solution. And then medication, until about nearly a decade ago, was still quite expensive, but the Act has changed with the single exit pricing, so that basic essential drug list medication, as per World Health Organization, are remarkably cheap. Just move on. Where's my layout? Sorry. But I just don't get to my next slide here. Oh, there we are. So in 2025, we have a workable solution. And in a way, as I said here, I speak on behalf of nearly 3,000 GPs and up to 50,000 patients who are already accessing this. But it's a small drop in the bucket. We have discovered that 200 Rand per month, give or take, is affordable, because affordability is very relative. It comes from the fact that many corporations and businesses are quite happy to contribute half of the existing lower income options. And half of typically an option out there would be half of 450 or half of 600. And then we get to this figure. In other words, corporations could now pay all of it and let their employees join without them carrying half the burden. Often that burden is not really that big, but it's also a cultural thing where many lower income earners are just so used to no cover and they're quite comfortable with that. So this is a way to sort and solve for the employer's challenge on comprehensive cover for all their workers. The model that we have built has given access to a clinical team via WhatsApp. So for the first time, the doctor's voice or his ear is a WhatsApp away, and should healthcare not be completely able to be given at that level, referrals to all the 3,000 GPs I mentioned earlier are then possible. We do know that up to 80% of the population can actually use smartphones or WhatsApp. And if you are employed, it is nearly 100%. In other words, the access in this field is fantastic. Providers are also part of the solution, and they are clearly, absolutely non-negotiable. We still need doctors. AI is not going to replace that in the short run. AI will often help doctors to get to answers quicker. But at the sector of population that we look at, they need doctors and access to them. And then obviously medicine costs are drastically down. And if you take these things into account, and I'm not mentioning specifically dentistry and optometry, but that's also part of this, we can get to something like 200 Rand per month per worker, which is an incredible feat. So what do we do as a call to action? Now, I'm very impressed by WASA and their initiative here, and that is obviously one of the ways that we jointly go forward here. But basically, HR and brokers, they are the people that have knowledge on this, and they are the ones that can build a bridge between employers and their employees. For particularly primary care and preventative care, a critical component. Tertiary care is often less important, although when it happens, we can still refer people to certain state facilities. But the day-to-day stuff that is costly and demoralizing is access to primary care. So we need to educate corporates on these solutions. We're not the only solution, but I'm showing you what we have achieved. And dignity, a critical element, where your lower income worker can access the same GP that the CEO of the company can. Productivity and retention are just some byproducts, as well as the obvious things like sick note management and absenteeism management. We can use incredible advances in technology, and I've mentioned to that, and so did Jared earlier. WASA is a facilitator that we think has a great future in coordinating this, as this particular seminar shows. And then, I think lastly, we have to shape the future. We cannot let this over to the state. And more importantly, it is actually, we cannot afford not to do it. The cost of doing something will be less than the cost of not doing something. So at that point, I end. And Chris, thank you so much for the opportunity, and back to you.